I feel like people are like still kind of trying to make everything super loud and in your face, where the reality is I think everybody's kind of fed up with that, and there's all the like technology wise in terms of like digital to analog converters and like all the different streamers, da 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 da. You can just make things softer. You can make things sound more dynamic and less loud these days. And I feel like people don't really accept that fact. They still smash everything and make everything super loud, which is fun. I mean, I do that too sometimes. But I feel like in sync specifically, you want to leave some headroom. You want to make it feel like there's space for voiceover or for other sound effects or even for another song on top of whatever you're doing. So I think that's the number one thing in terms of audio.
Yeah. I'm also curious, like that's really interesting. That's good to know. The loudness wars persist no matter what we do.
Yeah, I feel like I had this conversation with a lot of people that said the opposite, where like people say like, oh, I want to make it loud, so my track is kind of
will stand out.
Standing out, in consideration for sync. But I feel like people working in actual like sync companies or people who are branding or working on commercials and stuff, they know that they can turn on and off, like they can turn the level up and down in editing. And when you think about it, like any song that's in a sync partnership deal or whatever, like going for a movie or a commercial or anything that's video related, is going to go into a video editing software where people can turn it up and down. So there's no real excuse to make it super loud. Like it's not something that really benefits your song.
Nice. I guess unless it needs to be loud to sound good, right? Which I guess there are times for that.
Yeah, there are times for that, but I would say that it's like in reality maybe like 10 or 12% of the songs, and like 80% of the submissions are super loud. So it doesn't really make sense.
So people back off. If your goal is sync, maybe think about backing off on the mastering chain.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. When you were working on sync music, was Dolby Atmos something? I see you have like a Dolby Atmos sign behind you. Was that part of the equation? Because like when we spoke in 2020, like nobody was thinking about Dolby Atmos at all, and obviously it was already a format being used in films and stuff. But what was that like? I guess recently in the sync world.
It's something that I feel like isn't fully adapted yet. I think that the amount of possibilities that you can do with Dolby Atmos is something that we didn't really get to yet in terms of the industry. And I feel like there's a lot of catching up to do. But I'm sorry to be sounding like a broken record, but I feel like one of the major benefits of Dolby Atmos is something that people don't think about, which is headroom. Going back to what I said earlier.
Yeah.
And in a sense that like the standard in Dolby Atmos is -18, which is really soft and full of dynamics. And when you work in a multi-channel environment, you have much more space in terms of headroom, which makes things more exciting. And again, like I feel like headroom is something that's really
lost, I would say.
Yeah, it's really it is. I think that like all the old records that we love, like Beatles or Motown or anything like that, it has so much headroom and dynamics, and it's something that like we don't pay attention to these days almost at all. So
it's one of the big features of music, right? Because music is sound over time, and so when you manipulate how loud or soft something is over time, that could really play with your emotions in a really serious way. And I don't know. We've gotten. I mean, I don't know if it's a chicken or egg situation, right? Of like where music has sort of become background noise almost for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think in the younger generation, and so it's like it shouldn't be background noise. It should be something that you're like, I guess this is what theaters are good for, right? Or is like, drawing at your emotions over time. Also, like in a film medium or something, like
Yeah,
having
for
your
sure.
attention. When you used to listen to a record, you used to have attention for it, right? But now we listen to songs on Spotify, and we're just like, we're not even like, we're not fully immersing ourselves in that experience,
Exactly. I feel like the only place where we actually, sit down and listen is when we go to a concert, which is kind of like going to the movies in terms of like comparison.